Steve. That brings us to the question and answer period. And I think Stan is going to kick it off with the first question.
I'd like, is that on? Okay. All the way up. Yes. I'd like to remind everybody that this is a forum that is addressing business and economic issues, and those specifically. The first question.
Question 2. What is the concept of public-private partnership, the last few words were in quotes, mean to you? What do you think are good examples of how such a partnership should work and why? And
Leading off is Mike.
There are a lot of ways that we can have public-private partnerships. I think there are many things that we can do to help improve the way that the county works with private enterprise. And that doesn't necessarily mean just local small businesses. That means working with the lab, for instance. That means working with institutions like the one we're in today, UNMLA. The county can do a lot of things to make it easier for the private entities to be successful. And the way I see it is, we shouldn't be spending money directly trying to subsidize businesses. We should be looking at ways that we can effectively invest the money that the county has in infrastructure that's going to make it easier for businesses to succeed. That's going to make it easier in the long term for our other institutions to succeed. I think we need to look at ways that are going to pay off in the long term. An investment now, like Vincent said earlier, we don't necessarily know if we can rely on GRT from the lab forever. So I really think that we need to look at investing in the kinds of infrastructures that are going to pay off in the long term, whatever those may be. And so we really do need to take a really close look at how we can provide those sorts of amenities that will help private entities succeed.
Thank you, Michael. Pete, you're up next.
The federal and the county government are the two biggest landholders in the county, so we're going to be players in land use. We need to do this in a smart way that leverages any county contribution by attracting private investment. The county and the schools have land that can be used in cooperative developments for affordable housing or commercial needs. I'm particularly excited about mixed-use live-work developments in the downtown areas of Los Alamos and White Rock. That could help reinvigorate our downtown areas. I live in the Broadway tract on North Mesa, which is about the last development of starter homes, of low to medium price houses that was built here. Since then, the builders seem to want to build much more expensive homes. And at this point, after the economy has changed, there's actually a much better market for low to medium price houses, even for young staff members who are wary of getting caught in buying at the top of a market and then having their mortgage go underwater, which some unfortunate people have seen happen in the last few years. The key to affordable starting houses is lower land prices. Land that the county has can be used to make that possible. Another example is a community broadband system. It would be great to have such a system, but the wrong way to go about this is to ask the community to pay for a big bond issue and put it in and then let the private sector run it and make the money. The right way is what we're already doing. Every time the utilities department digs a trench, a big trench, put in some conduit, be ready later on to work with private industry to start using that conduit. And We share the cost, we'll share the benefits. That's how to do it.
Thank you, Pete. Vince, you're next.
A public-private partnership takes advantage of the things that businesses can do well and the things that the county is uniquely suited to do well. One very good example is when the county uses the authority given to it by the state legislature to give grants and loans to technology companies so they can get started. A $2 million investment in a New Mexico consortium, which is a biofuel research entity, which I supported in the council, has brought with it 50 employees to Los Alamos and tens of millions of dollars of research money in this exciting new field of technology. These are the kinds of things we have to support to grow our research park and the Entrada Business Park. And just today, in this building, a new computer was dedicated that has 2,500 nodes for science. These are the kind, and that would not have been, and one of the principal players in that was the New Mexico Consortium. This would not have been possible if the county did not make its investment. Another good example is the Affordable Housing Ordinance, which I voted for as county council. And what that allows the council to do is to offer a discount to developers so they can go into land such as the A19 and they have a discount if they put in affordable homes. If they were to put in Oppenheimer apartments on a parcel of the A19 land, we could give them a discount. If they were to put in student housing so that more students could live here in town and attend UNMLA, the council can give them a discount. And by having more students in town, those students can serve as a workforce for our local businesses. And we can expand the programs that are offered here at UNMLA, and one day, this institution can become a 4-year university, which I believe is a goal that we should strive to. But all of that can help be brought about by the tools that the county has, the Affordable Housing Ordinance and our loan and grant program.
Thank you, Vince. Martin, you're next.
Public-private partnership, to me, means that a public institution like government and a private institution like Smith's or whatever manage to come to an agreement that is the mutual benefit of both. Okay, so that's something that we would want to strive for as much as we can legally allow in Los Alamos County. An example of that would be the complex but multi-unit arrangement that was made with Smith's with their leasing of the lands and the schools in Los Alamos County. That's an example of when that would happen. Those kind of things that we can do, along with trying to find ways to partner with private business that we can advance affordable housing or take advantage of some of the space that we have. Those are things that, as a council, that we need to pursue creatively. Let me give you an example of something that would be a creative way, creative thought that we can put this together. Smith's is moving across the street. That's going to create an empty space. UNMLA needs space for an engineering practice, right? So to try to further their engineering thing. So could there be some arrangement where the county worked with Smith's to somehow acquire that property at some low value and then somehow get it back to UNMLA so they could have a leadership program for engineering that they could then feed into the engineering companies that we might bring up to Los Alamos. That would be an example of something we could do. Now that would be creative, it would be a lot of work to do something like that, but that's the kind of thing that we would be thinking of. How could we use the space we have, multi-use of different organizations, including public and private, that we could advance our economic vitality? So those are the kind of creative things that I would be pursuing and looking at and seeing if those are viable options to try to do those kind of things. So anyway, as a community, if we can think creatively along those lines, we can move forward rather than just the usual, I'm going to give you a tax incentive. So are there things that we can do to try to move those programs forward?
Thank you, Mark. Steve, you're next.
So public-private partnerships are when they come together to achieve mutually beneficial objectives. Okay, so that's one thing that you got to remember. If there's not a win-win in for both of them, it's doomed from the start. And so what are some of the things that have worked here in the town or worked in the county that are good examples of public-private partnerships? Well, one of the really early ones was LACDC. Okay, it was county money behind. LACDC is a 501 created perform a service outside of the county. And there's another one recently that Vincent brought up. There's a lot of work that goes into public-private partnerships. There's a lot of work that goes into some of these deals before they magically show up for a vote. Okay, and so there's a lot of nuances, and then there's different groups that have to come together to make these things happen. And what we saw with the Algal Research Center is probably one of the more sophisticated things we've ever done yet. And that had the lab involved, county involved, a 501 consortium involved. So that's the other end of the spectrum. That's very sophisticated, but the payoff is high. We have people come to town. New people come to town, live, work, and economic diversification. Win-win for the county is it meets our vitality goals. I think the Smiths, working as a developer, that's meeting our objectives. That's meeting vitality objectives for the city. That's another example of a public-private partnership. We can't turn anything down, but there's got to be something in it. There's not just hand money out for free. Okay? That's not the way that has to work. There has to be a win in it for the community when we have these proposals brought in front of us.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Kristen, you want to wrap this one up for us?
Okay. Yeah. Public-private partnership is definitely when both the private sector and the public sector come together to work on something, and they're both contributing. And it doesn't, from the public sector, it doesn't have to necessarily be cash. It could, in some instances, be help in coordination, help in communication, help in branding. It might, in some instances, be an actual investment. To me, a perfect example actually is Trinity Site. I was asked to serve on that citizens committee, and I did that for 2 years. And to me, that's an amazing example where the federal government initially contributed land. There had to be all kinds of land swaps, and now our schools will be getting rental income. We had to pay as a community to move buildings, but of course, let's be honest, they were Quonset huts, several of them were condemned, that we were needing to be doing some infrastructure investment anyway. So they were moved, and now we're going to have a $26 million investment from a private entity into our community to be building something that we really need, which is a general merchandise store that will help all of our businesses to get income. Some other good examples include, there was an entity that came here and proposed if we invested 10%, they would invest 90%, and they had done this several other places where they take an area of downtown that's fairly dilapidated, and if they can strike the right deal, they will completely remodel it and do the kind of live-work situation where you have small retail stores down below and living facilities up above, and that's a fantastic partnership, and that would be something that might be worth our investment. I also think in terms of coordination, there's any number of things. We are a small town, and in a fairly isolated place, we can coordinate with a lot of things. One idea I've been talking to people about is coordinating something where we have those gourmet lunch trucks come up, and several of the restaurants in town would be willing to do that. Kenny's Barbecue already has that, and if we coordinate it with our bus system where they go up to the lab, and let's say everyone